All right. All right. I'm here. Better late than never. It's uh it's a cluster here at my house. As you can tell, I'm downstairs. Fluffy is right there with me. Could not make it upstairs today. So let me take this off. This is gonna be too warm, I think. Nah, it's fine. It is what it is. All right. Hi, Sean. Yeah, definitely afternoon today. Not good afternoon, just afternoon. My water over here. Okay. How you doing, Chris? So, everybody that's panicking, raise your hands. Yeah, Sean, so first round exit, huh? Um, I don't know, man. You know, I saw the last minute or two minutes last night of the Canes beating the crap out of the Wings. And Canes are all animated and the home crowd in Carolina's gone crazy just because of clinching the playoff spot. There's two different ways you can look at that. You can look at it and say we have the biggest prize on our mind, and you don't want to celebrate and get too excited too high too early. On the other hand, like what Chris is saying, developing very bad habits. I mean, we just can't keep a lead. We cannot keep. I mean, not even a one. It was we made it 2-1 last night. I cracked the joke. Can we even keep this lead for 3 minutes to get it to where there was 10 minutes left in the period? And we couldn't. Hey, Chris. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Chris. He says, Jaws, in the recap last night, you said we won't be back to the same chemistry we had before the All-Star break. We still have the same guys. Yes. Well, if you saw, Chris, thank you again. You saw what Maurice did last night in that third period, moving Cousins back to that second line, and that was the closest we got to a goal in that period. I know you got Tarasenko, so you're not going to put him on the bench. It's not like he's been a problem, but Verhaeghe, Barkov, honestly, Verhaeghe, Barkov, Reinhart, Cousins, Bennett, Kachuk, Lundell, Luosterainen with Tarasenko, Stenlin with Lomberg and Gadjevich, and Rodriguez can be the guy off the bench. And you just look at Tarasenko as a wash, and it's not a wash, but in terms of you replace Rodriguez with Tarasenko. TK says, got to say I'm disappointed, but not surprised by the lack of fortitude and belief in the fan base coming from a big pessimist. Thomas, hey Jaws, thank you, bud. I'm doing everything I can to keep up the energy. I will say this. Somebody brought up a good point in a comment on the recap last night. This is important because it kind of shows how even I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth. I don't want, I'm asking them to show, show that they can play the way that they were playing. Okay. But at the same time, last night, it was mentioned about how the Islanders were blocking shots and were not. And I'm like, I'm okay with that because block shots, that's how guys get hurt. And sure enough, not but 5 minutes later, Luosterainen blocked a shot, and it kind of stung him for a minute. He was okay. But my immediate reaction was, man, don't do that. Don't be blocking shots. It's not that important. So while there are some things that are happening that aren't great, the flip side to that is that we don't need to be blocking shots, right? So there's reasons. There are some acceptable reasons they're playing this way, and then there's some unacceptable reasons we're playing this way. And I see it as mental mistakes. They're just not as mentally engaged as they need to be. Dana says, I had to leave the stream last night. I didn't want to feast on all the negativity, and a couple of users were 100% every comment negative, negative, negative. I wanted to put them in timeout, but I didn't want to be a dictator. Dana, it's one of those situations where everybody's kind of right. You know what I mean? Because on one hand, we want them to play better and to show that passion. On the other hand, do we really want like Luosterainen diving and trying to block shots to save points right now? Do we really genuinely want that? As I think right now we kind of don't. You know what I mean? So if as fans, it's hard on us to walk the line of exactly how we want them to look. It's there's only so many buttons Paul Maurice is going to press when the guys know, the players know, look, man, we're either going to finish in first place or second place, right? And they have the memory of last year, how hard they had to play before the season ended to get into the playoffs. I can understand not blocking shots. I can understand not getting overly physical. The mental mistakes is the part. That's the part that I don't know if that light switch is going to, it has to either turn on or not. You know what I mean? Chris says it wasn't the player's fault last night. Victoria says, I heard an interview with Maurice about a week ago. He made a comment that basically insinuated, I guess there's the second point, that they were making certain decisions here on the last stretch. Right. Yeah, the point about blocking shots, TK. It's true because like we want them to bust their ass, but just kind of like the Diet Coke of busting your ass. You know what I mean? And then the flip side to that is we are playing teams that are desperate for points. And hey, Bubba, thank you, Bubba. Bubba says we play as hard as possible for the President's Trophy, the only trophy that matters. He basically said they will turn it all the way up in the last week heading into the postseason. All right, Cliff. That would not be a terrible. We got to see it at some point, right? I would rather them play poorly now and find their groove in the last 3 or 4 games than to do what we did in the President's Trophy season, which was bust our ass and look fantastic, and then turn it off in the last 3 games, and we never really got it back, right? You know, we beat the Capitals because we should beat the Capitals, but we never really got it back. One thing I will say, though, with this Panther team that we have learned is that adversity can be good for these guys. They do not respond well to all that much success. They tend to do their best when backs up against the wall, we're down a goal, right? So the fact that we really had not gone through a stretch like this at all, we went through that one stretch, but the guys were sick. We were on that West Coast swing. We really haven't had a bad stretch like this all season. So look, either they're gonna fix it or they're not. You know what I mean? We know how this team can play, right? I have a hard time believing that just bringing in Tarasenko made that much of a difference, but Nick Cousins belongs on that second line. It's not because he's talented enough to be on the second line. It's because he adds to the Tkachuk and Bennett energy and their attitude, and they just step up their play when he's up there. There's no way around it. You saw it last year in the playoffs. As soon as Maurice made that move, you saw it again this year. That crazy good run that we went on was when they had moved Cousins up to that second line. It just, for whatever reason, it just works, right? You know? Hey, Bubba. Thank you, Bubba. Thank you, Bubba. Let's see. Oh, hold on, it's going too fast. Let me show this. Nope, that's not the one I wanted. Hold on. All right. Says, okay, which do you think will fix this team and make them start winning? Kulikov getting paired with Yandel or Barkov playing with Lomberg and the rest? Um, I'll have to pass on the Yandel part. Kulikov with Yandel would be pretty bad. Barkov, Lomberg, and Lorentz. We know that Lomberg can score. Chris says we better get this slump out of our system now, better than later, right? Victoria says Paul said they will have the playoff line set by the Bruins game on April 6th, and they will keep those. I hope so. I hope so. Honestly, for Hagee, Barkov, Reinhart, Cousins, Bennett, Kachuk, put Tarasenko next to Lundell and Luosterainen, and Rodriguez can be the odd man out. And I'm not saying that's Rodriguez's fault, but since they went and got Tarasenko, that's how I think we need to move it, right? Julian says Tarasenko, Carter, Reinhold, they're too good of players in the third line. I can't picture one to split with chemistry Reinhart and Sasha had have. Julian, I mean, how can I put this? It's not about if this individual or that individual is good enough to play wherever. There's no other team in the NHL where Cousins belongs on the second line. But with Bennett and Kachuk, it works. Yeah, Tarasenko is not typically a third line guy, but that's the space that I think would work best for him because I think Reinhart needs to be up top with Barkov and Verhaeghe. So it's not about how each individual player, how, you know, where it's about the whole chemistry of the group. You think Reinhart is best fit for the third line with E2 and Lundell. We just disagree there. We just disagree. But that's all right. And Colby's got a good point. There are many times during that run where we look questionable. However, Bob and Stolarz bailed us out each time we did. That's true. It's the biggest thing I'm concerned about right now. Look, I think the physicality will come. The blocking shots and the finishing our checks, that's going to come. The mental part of the game, and I've been saying this for weeks, they're just not as focused in and as mentally engaged as you need to be. I don't care whose mistake it was last night. Verhaeghe goes into the corner with the man, and Mikkola just follows him into the corner and leaves the dude wide open in front of the net. Bennett tries to get back. Now, whether or not that is Bennett wasn't back checking quick enough or Mikkola needs to stay in front of the net, I don't care. One of them screwed up, and we got to stop leaving guys open in front of the net. Julian says Jaws, I'm perfectly fine with Cousins on the second line, allows Bennett and Matthew to save their body a little bit more. Yeah, that line is very tough to deal with. Exactly. Right. And David said, yeah, don't forget we lost the finals because our players were hurt. No, I agree with, in theory, what they're doing right now. Hey, Raven. It's not fun to watch. Like somebody said in the stream last night, what this is doing is it's kind of subduing our momentum that we had heading into the playoffs. We know how this team can play, and they even looked pretty good there the first game or two that Tarasenko was in the lineup. Hopefully Maurice has seen enough, makes the right changes. Look, and it's no disrespect to Lorentz either, right? It's no disrespect to Lorentz, but Lomberg needs to be on the ice. Lomberg should not be scratched. Okay, that's not. He's too much of the blood of this team. And then if you want to put Rodriguez in the fourth line, okay, I'd prefer Gadjevich, right? Julian says last year, Jaws, Reinhart, E2, Lundell. Yeah, I mean, they did work well, but Reinhart's been up with Barkov most of the year, and the chemistry they've developed has been pretty damn good. And that was my point before we made the moves. Is like those two lines, Barkov, Reinhart with Verhaeghe, and then Bennett, Kachuk, and Cousins. I mean, they were beautiful. It was a thing of beauty. And what we kind of needed to do was get Lundell and Luosterainen going. And to me, at this point, I think I've seen enough. I would like to see Tarasenko down there. It doesn't mean I think he's a third line guy. Play him even minutes. Doesn't bother me none. And it's certainly none of this is his fault. And it was a great play he made last night. But I just hope Maurice ends up getting to that. I mean, he got to it last night in terms of putting Cousins on that second line. So Praga says Maurice is trying to get that Lundell, Luosterainen, and Reinhart line going. I can see he's salivating at the possibility of 3 scoring lines, but it isn't working. Reinhart could be scoring 1 or 2 a game with Barkov. Yeah, it's exactly, JC. Yep. Right. Christian says we're going to scratch Lomberg. We're going to either let him go or trade. Well, we can't trade him now. I know he was a little bit hurt. I think one of the games he was hurt, but in terms of now, I think he needs to be back on the ice. And Sunswine, yeah, Reinhart was carrying Lundell loose to Ryan line. Lundell needs to step up and lead his lines. Well, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong there. What I'll say is that it's always Bennett and Kachuk. You know what I mean? And you see the benefit of keeping those two together each time. And so Lundell, Luosterainen need to become like a Bennett and Kachuk, where, okay, these two guys, that's your duo for the line, and they need to handle the rotation of that third winger a little bit better than they have. I'll definitely agree with that. Yeah, who said that? That was, yeah, oh, Colin says Paul Maurice hasn't been happy with the effort lately. Yeah, no, definitely not. Colby, yeah, Nick from Twisted Wrister is going to be here. He gets here Tuesday. He's just spending the one night, but he'll be here Tuesday. Yeah. Hey, Sean, thank you, bud. Thank you, bud. He says, only thing I keep thinking is who is going to be able to beat us 4 times at a best of 7. I know I have no interest in playing Tampa right now. They still got their guys, you know what I mean? And they're not that old. And if Vasilevsky, is playing well, Tampa's dangerous. They know how to win. Paul says, I'm not trying to start anything, but Lundell is not great. I think he has Pete, and I don't think he's going to get – oh, you think he's peaked? I don't think he's going to get any better from what he is now. Can you say a busted the first-round pick? No. I'm not saying he's great, but if the dude ends up as a third-line center and plays 500, 750 games for us or more, whatever, that's not a bust. People get too stuck on first-round draft pick must mean he's going to be a superstar. A lot of times you're drafting guys to be extraordinarily solid. We can totally win a Stanley Cup with Lundell at 3C. Is he going to develop into 2C or 1C? Well, a lot of times guys only develop to what they're challenged to do. And Lundell, I think, knows he's not really going to be challenged to develop into Barkov or Bennett because we got Barkov and Bennett. So I understand. I don't think he's peaked, though. I don't think he's peaked. And Paul, the example I will use is Barkov. When I started this channel, I would give Barkov a bunch of grief about he needs to be better, he needs to do this, he needs to do that. And people would look at me like I was crazy to say, well, you think Barkov can get better? I say, yeah, I think Barkov can get better. And obviously, Barkov has gotten a lot better. I mean, Lundell's only 23. He's only 23. So I don't think he's peaked at all. Let me take a sip here real quick. TK says, I remember Flyers fans thinking Justin Williams peaked at them at 22. Yeah. Chris says we need Borgstrom to center the third. That poor kid just can never he could never put any weight on. He can never put any weight on, right? Colin, I agree, man. We just need to get back to what works with the lines and effort. Raven says, Jaws, of these teams, which would you be okay with playing? Honestly, if I put it, I'll put it this way. I have no interest in playing Tampa. And for the longest time, we kind of figured if we win second place, we play the Leafs at third place, but there's no guarantee now. No, not interested in playing Tampa. I mean, obviously, playing the Capitals, playing Detroit, playing Philadelphia, I'd feel pretty good about those series. Toronto, that could get messy because they have an axe to grind, obviously. And Tampa is still could possibly be Panthers kryptonite. Luciano, yeah, Braga says Luciano is playing the best I've ever seen. He is playing like a beast, yeah. Which is why when you blocked that shot yesterday, I was like, no. What's the water? Oh, Kyle must have decided to take a shower. Brock says the Leafs are only 6 points behind us. Well, it's because we keep losing, right? Hey, Rosado. Let me see. Let me look at it for a second here. Come on, phone. Yeah, the Leafs are 6 points behind us with a game in hand. That's funny. I mean, it wouldn't matter. It would just mean home ice advantage. I don't think we're going to fall out of that spot, but yeah, that's a decent point. That's a good point. They need to enough is enough. You know what I mean? We're going on the road, right? We play Detroit, right? We play Detroit at home, and then at 12:30 in the afternoon. And then we're on the road for Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa, and Boston. Jeez. So maybe they'll get it together on the road because they're not getting it together at home. All right, let's see. Great White says, Jaws, who would you trade first, Cousins or Kulikov, plus save $2 million? Well, neither one of them has a contract next year anyway. So it doesn't. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think, to be honest, Cousins might be back, but I would be surprised if Kulikov is back. Rosado says, as soon as Vasilevsky gets hot, that team is suddenly unbeatable. Yeah. Yep. And Jameson is correct. The Boston game could decide the division. Al says, this is Tampa's last year to win 3 cups in 5 years to become a dynasty team. Very good point. Right? I'm scrolling up because I missed a couple things. Where are you going, Rosado? Hold on. Oh, you're going to the Miami Open. Wow, have fun with that, man. That's cool. It's got to be like 100 degrees down there, right? Have I ever been in the Miami Open, Rosado? No. No, definitely not. I have not. So, look, beat the crap out of Detroit, right? And then get on the road. You got Leafs, Canadiens, Senators, and then that Saturday afternoon game against the Bruins, and then they've got a couple days off. They don't play Sunday or Monday, so we'll have a little bit of rest. And then that's it, right? Yeah. So there's the one game, then there's the 4 on the road. I think they get ready. I think they'll get right on the road. I think that they will get right on the road, and we'll know for sure if they get right on the road by how we play at Boston. Hey, thank you, Great White. Thank you, buddy. Thank you, Great White. Much appreciated. Thank you, bud. Sean says we have a guaranteed 8 points for the remaining games, 2 with Sens, 1 with Columbus, and 1 with Sabres. I don't know about the Ottawa games. I mean, those are games that we should win, but they're usually pretty tough. They're pretty tough. And then that last game of the year is against the Leafs. That's going to be crazy to see who needs to win what for that game, right? Last game, April 16th, is against Toronto. So, I mean, any number of things could happen. That we could need that win to play Toronto, to avoid playing Toronto, to play Tampa. That game could have some serious meaning. Raven says the NFL scripts are getting lit, right? Yeah, Detroit is just. I thought they had it. Has it been Alex Lyon playing bad? By the way, I haven't. I've been busy the last week. I haven't seen how it's been. Yeah, Jameson, Ottawa has been playing really well recently. Typical Sens late seasons glimmer. Yeah, they last year they did that too, right? Where they made a run. Was it Ottawa or was it Buffalo last year? I think it was Ottawa that came close to making the playoffs, right? Julian says Jaws just spitballing. But what if we throw Reinhart in the second line? Bennett Kachuk with Reinhart. I don't know. I think that's the one combination that probably doesn't work. They didn't need to. They broke what wasn't. They fixed what wasn't broke. You know what I'm trying to say. They didn't need to do it. They did not need. I understand Tarasenko, but I think in hindsight, what Maurice should have just done was taken Rodriguez and sat him on the bench and put Tarasenko next to Lundell and Luosterainen and left the other two lines alone. And I know Barkov was sick and was hurt or whatever. He's always sick and hurt. So I get it. The positive part is that everybody will have played together. The problem is not everybody has played well together. So, and there has been a modicum of luck that's involved. A couple of pucks went off his skates, not last night, but in the other games. But the other part to it is that, I mean, it's not like we've lost 15 of 17. You know what I mean? I mean, the slump is still less than 10 games long. Most teams go through that at some point in the season. We just kind of we were just playing so obscenely well that now, by contrast, this looks pretty brutal. Yeah, so 3-6-1 in the last 10, right? Christian, what are we going to do with Okposo? Okposo, in my opinion, should be the last guy off the bench. Like, instead of calling up a guy from the AHL. Let's see. Chris says, with Forsling signing an extension and 13 not signed yet, is it possible that the room knows he's going to test free agency with his 51 goals, and that is dividing the room, resulting in poor play? I would be lying if I said that I hadn't thought about that a little bit, and not exactly that, but you kind of want to feel like everybody is pulling on the rope in the same direction. I don't think that we're going to lose Reinhart, because all we have to do to sign Reinhart is to just not re-sign Montour. So I think when push comes to shove, I think like what Bill said was, we have a plan to pay everybody handsomely. And I think, Forsling obviously dropped the gauntlet down on Montour and said, this is what I'm willing to take to stay. How much Reinhart gets paid might depend on Montour, or, maybe the plan is to let Reinhart test free agency and just, Reinhart goes and says, I could get 11, but I'll take 9.5 to stay. I have a hard time believing that we're going to lose Reinhart, because we have a lot of other options to move on from any number of players before we would move on from Reinhart. Chicken says, what are we going to do about Stoley? Nobody discusses re-signing him. Or are we just letting him walk? That's going to be up to him like it was with Alex Lyon. Remember, we would have kept Lyon, but Lyon wanted to go somewhere where he would get a chance to start. And you see that now with Detroit. What are we going to do with Spencer Knight? Right? That might be the other thing. If we move on from Spencer Knight, then you say to Stolars, hey, here's a longer term deal at a decent price. And if/when Bubba decides to hang him up during your term, maybe the net will be yours for a short period of time. So, but I think all of that's, we're at a point now where it's just all, unless we get some contracts signed in between, regular season and the playoffs. Chris says, sign Stolars, pay the man his money. I agree. I absolutely agree there. Rosado says, I know why we haven't been winning recently. It's because I haven't joined the stream, so you're bad. We'll have to figure that out, Rosado. TK says, is it luck or scouting that gets people to take the discounts they don't elsewhere? The weather, bikinis, Barkov, Huberto, Kachuk, Verhaeghe, Forsling, and hopefully more. It's got to be more than the weather. It's got to be more than the weather because the Dolphins play in the weather and live in the weather, and they ain't been able to keep anybody for less. Okay, they had to sign their punter to a long-term deal to get him to stay. So as much as I think in one end, we joke about that, I just think they've got a good culture there now. I think just everything that goes along with it, you know what I mean? And to some degree, it is a little bit different, obviously, because in football, you're not going to get sent to Calgary and, Winnipeg and any of these places. So there is something to do with that as well. Chris. The tax breaks are real, though, man. The tax breaks are absolutely real. There's no way around that, man. I've actually, though, at my income level, I have enjoyed not paying state taxes because with Florida, there's no state taxes, so you don't file. Here in Maryland, there are state taxes, but I've gotten a refund every year. So so I'm good with that, right? Raven, I see Antonio Brown and DeMar Hamlin beefing on Twitter. No, I haven't been on Twitter since I posted about Ellie. I just haven't been on it. So kind of weaning off of Twitter. I'm on Twitter now streaming, but in terms of going there and scrolling and everything like that, my eyes can only take so much. And with the extra content I had been making before Ellie passed, it's only so much screen time that I can get, right? Chicken says, do I think the Leafs will end up in a wild card spot? That's a good question. What's the head-to-head here? Let's see. Maple Leafs 91 points, 72 games. Lightning are 4 points back. Do they have any head-to-heads? Let's see. Yeah, April 3rd, Toronto plays Tampa. Do they do it again? Gone. Another one? No. Yes. Oh, wow. So Tampa's going to have some say-so here because in their last 10 games, they play the Islanders, the Red Wings, the Maple Leafs. Then they got Canadians, Penguins, Jackets, Senators. But then they've got the Capitals, and then they end the season against the Maple Leafs. So the Maple Leafs have to come to Florida, and I believe our game is the 16th. So the Maple Leafs have to end the season on a back-to-back playing Florida and then Tampa. So they could easily, in the last 2 games of the season, get kicked to the curb at the wild card spot. That's a good question. That's crazy good scheduling, I'll tell you that. Yeah, they gotta play they gotta play the Panthers on the 16th and the Lightning on the 17th. And they play April 3rd against Florida, April 4th. Then they do it twice, chicken. They do it twice because they play the Lightning on April 3rd. The Lightning play the Leafs on April 3rd. So they're going to have to play Florida and Tampa 2 times in the last 10 games back to back. Wow. That's not a help for anybody that thinks the league helps Toronto. Just look at their schedule. That's crazy. Meadow says, I don't have any interest in playing the Leafs or Tampa or anyone. Just give us the cup. No games needed. Let's play one game. Yeah. As we'll play a 1-game series against the Leafs. First team to blow a lead wins. The cup is ours, right? Also, the Devils are not out of the equation. Are they not out? Are the Devils still within? Well, no, where's New Jersey? 76 points. I mean, the Devils would damn near have to win all the rest of their games. They would have to finish like 9-0. And they still might not make it in. But the Capitals have a chance. That's crazy. Yeah, the Devils are on their last legs, yeah. Al says the average state income tax is about 9%. Colorado is half that, and Florida and Vegas have none. That's pretty big incentive for the last 4 winners. That's true. Yeah, the taxes is crazy. It used to be on eBay that we didn't have to pay the taxes, and now eBay has to collect all the state taxes, and it's doesn't cost me anything, but it costs the buyers. Yeah, the Capitals could take over Philly. Yeah, yep. Let's see. David says whichever team can run into their goalie more often wins. Bob has been prepping all season long. Hopefully he gets some more rest. I would have no problem with Stolarz playing again tomorrow, and then just split. You just split the Monday, Tuesday games. I'm sure he's going to play Bob, but I would love to see Bob get a little bit more rest. I would love to see it. What else with the in the West? It's pretty much set. It's pretty much set, right? The 4 and the 4. I guess that the Blues could make a miracle run and take over the Kings, but not likely. So those 8 teams in the West are pretty much set. Canucks, Oilers, Knights, Kings, Stars, Avalanche, Jets, Preds. Nobody's really close enough to make a run there. Great White. Chris says, I don't want the Devils to make it to the playoffs. I just want to hear Tyler rant about his team not making it. Yeah, I think the Devils. I thought the Wings were going to be this year's Devils, but it doesn't look like it's going to be. Meadow says, I hope he keeps Stolarz. He's proven himself, and his last few losses are not on him. Yeah, look, it's all going to come down to money, right? It's all going to come down to money. I know, and there may be a desire by Tarasenko to stay as well. So I will say this though, and this is me criticizing myself just as much as anybody else, but I think we saw in the last week that trading Ekblad might not be the best idea in the world. Because again, it's like Ekblad is the Nick Cousins of the defense. You don't know why, but somehow, because he's on the ice, he makes it work. Ekblad's a little bit better. I'm giving him grief, right? Because I know he's watching, because he misses me, because he's not, he's blocked me on Twitter, right? Chicken says the good thing about the West is that all the scary teams are playing each other in the first round. The pack will thin quickly. Nobody has an easy path. That's true. That's true. Look, there's nobody is going to be gifted anything. So I know that, we had a hell of a good run here, like 22 or 25 games or whatever it is. And then, we've kind of tailed off here. Nothing's going to be given to us. And we talked about this. We talked about this last year during the playoffs, that we were going to get to this point in the season. And for the most part, we're going to get every other team's best effort, because everybody wants to prove and show they can play with Florida. They can beat Florida. You see the celebrations when these teams are beating us. It's like they just won a playoff round. And if these guys feel they can't keep that kind of mental, focus for 3 months, and they only want to do it for 2.5, the answer to the question whether they can turn it on or not come playoff time, we're going to find out. If they can get on a good roll here, I expect them to win Saturday, even if it doesn't look pretty. But realistically, we played the Leafs on Monday, but, Canadian Senators, we should be able to get into some kind of a groove. And Toronto is going to be gunning for us, man, right? Because the way Toronto is going to look at it, as though if they beat us, that makes the likelihood that a Panthers-Leafs series, it makes it much more likely if the Leafs beat us on Monday, because that's going to make second and third place almost a lock there. So if they want Florida, they have a chance. And if they don't want Florida, they have a chance. If they like to avoid playing the Panthers, you play us twice, just lose, and we'll have to play the Lightning. Meadow says, what's a great team this season that you think could regress next year, like the Devils? Could the Flyers? Are they really, really for real? Right? I mean, I know Torts is a good coach. Look, Bruins, Panthers, Leafs, Rangers, Canes, those teams are pretty much here to stay for a while. And I'll throw the Lightning in there as well. The Flyers, and the Flyers are still not guaranteed of making the playoffs right now either. I mean, they've got to win some games. The Islanders are 5 points behind the Flyers, 2 games in hand. Let me see. Do the Islanders and Flyers play? Let's see. The Islanders and Flyers. Yeah, they do. There they go. The Islanders play the Lightning tomorrow, and then Monday they play the Flyers. Do they play them again? No, they do not play them again. And the Islanders have some winnable games. They've got some tough games too, but they've got the Jackets, they've got Canadians, they've got the Devils, they've got the Penguins. The Islanders could sneak in. It's going to be crazy last few days. Brad Sage says we've been playing that playoff style hockey all season, and teams that are in the picture have just kind of switched that gear like we did last season, which is why I think we've been a bit off. Yeah. I mean, look, there were definitely some games early in the year when we would just skate teams to death. We would just break their will to play. A lot of those 4-1 victories were, 1-0, 2-0. The other team would kind of quit. We'd get a third goal and then an empty netter. But this time of year, now teams are not, you're not going to skate them to death the same way that we did earlier on in the season. What Raven says, I'm more excited for next season than this season, to be honest. You got money to spend. Yeah, what's going to go on? Progress says, I know, Raven, if Omar leaves and Swayman struggles, the Bruins will have problems. Well, yeah, as long as we don't trade Spencer Knight to the Bruins. I guess Knight's been doing pretty well down there, eh? Interesting. Raven says we have 2 solid goalies in the minors, which is why I think we trade Ullmark. If one of them is decent and we get a good return, you'd be all in. Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of had to figure last year was your shot. You know, not saying you guys can't win now, but last year had to be disappointing for a number of reasons, right? Meadow says Knight has 3 shutouts in the last 4. Jeez. Well, that'll up his trade value. It is going to be one crazy postseason. I don't think we're going to have had as active of a postseason for the Panthers since the year after we lost to the Islanders and we did the whole analytics thing and moved Dale Talon up, right? Because there's so many contracts that have to be signed and so many long-term, short-term decisions that need to be made. TK says, just a little up. Knight's contract ends with Bob's contract. I don't see how both stay. Yeah, that's what we've been talking about for a while. Is that, I mean, when Spencer Knight got the contract, and Bob was still struggling, I looked at that and I said, okay, we're going to move on from Bob. At that point, Knight was still playing well. Bob was struggling. And I'm like, there's no way we're going to put $14.5 million to salary cap for a long time to goaltenders. And then Bob turned into Vezina Bob. Spencer Knight has his issues. And every time we bring in a solid backup goaltender, they turn into Jonathan Quick. So to me, it's such a hard decision, but we're in that cup win now mode. You got to stick with Bob. And if you move on from Spencer Knight, you know, you start developing the next guy because Knight's not going to see any playing time here anytime soon. Braga says Bob will probably go elsewhere and we have to probably retain some of his contract. Nah, I would be there's unless it happened, you can never convince me that would happen. Because there would just be no reason. There would just be no reason to do that. Bob has been playing exceptionally well. And Spencer Knight, you know, as much as we love him and all of that, he hasn't really proven that he's ready. You know what I mean? Yeah, I agree with Chicken, right? Oh, you're saying after Bob's contract is up? I keep saying he's going to get an extension. If he wants to play another year or two at $5 million, I think it'll be here. But it depends. Look, if we win a cup or cups plural, he might be like, okay, I'm going to play with my daughter. You know what I mean? He'd just walk off into the sunset. And a lot of these contracts that are going to be talked about this summer, right? They, you know, whether we win or not plays into that. You know, last year was last year. If this team goes on another exceptionally long run or wins the cup, the impetus to keep them together is going to be stronger than if we finish the season the way we're playing now, get knocked out of the first round. If that happens, they may feel like they can safely move on from a couple of guys and kind of retool a little bit. Metal says Knight will get picked up by some other team and shut us out every game. Just not in the Eastern Conference. No more goalies, okay? There's already the 3 of them, right? There's already Montalvo, Lyon, right? And Levi. There's already 3 of them. No more. They send them to the West. Send them to the West. Chicken says if we re-sign Stolarz, we need to find someone to take Knight's contract off our hands ASAP. Let him go become Vezina Knight somewhere out west. Yeah. Yeah, he needs to play. He needs to play. I want him to do well. You know, I've talked about that a lot in the podcast. I want him to do well. The man, Spencer Knight, must have a dartboard in his room with a picture of Dale Talon that he throws darts at, because Talon is really what did this. You know, you gave Bob all that money, you draft Spencer Knight, and you know, if you would sign Bob to a 4-year deal, Spencer Knight has some light at the end of the tunnel. But Knight gets drafted and is immediately blocked by an immovable contract. And there's just no way that did not have an effect on him and his mental state of mind. There's no way that did not have an effect. Let's see. Right. Yeah, exactly, Chicken. What's best for him is to not just rot in the AHL. Brad said Bob at $5 million is a good number. Age and his occasional shakiness bring that number down a little bit. Obviously, his shakiness has been greatly reduced this season. Hey, look, if Stolarz can continue to play like he's playing now, you know, eventually you start evening things out a little bit more. You know what I mean? I don't know what the numbers are this year, but you could go into a season where it was a little bit more purposeful, where you're trying to do 41 and 41, a true split, and just keep Bob a little bit fresher. I don't know that I feel confident and comfortable that Spencer Knight's that guy. And I don't know that I want to roll the dice on him being that guy, to be honest with you. Lil J thinks Knight will be the next Markstrom. Markstrom didn't come up. Markstrom didn't develop until like 26, 27, right? I mean, he took a while. So somebody had made a comment I wanted to see here. Okay. Lil J says, anyone who's worried didn't watch the President's Trophy team. We had a 13-game winning streak after the trade deadline with Barkov and Drew's terrible chemistry. Then we benched everyone. So you're talking about, Lil J, yeah, you're talking about those last 3 or 4 games where we just shut it down completely, right? Yeah. Lost 10-2 to Montreal, which may have affected our momentum. Lil J, yeah, point is there's still 9 games left and we could end up getting hot. And I said that a while ago. You're right. I would, if they play like this and then in the last 3 or 4 games, they put it all back together and we get hot right then, stepping into the first round of the playoffs, okay, that's fine. It doesn't look pretty. I don't like losing, but I also don't like the idea of just flipping the switch game 1. They got to flip it a little bit earlier than that, you know. Brad says trading away a goalie at the deadline next season will be the greatest benefit to the franchise. Someone's always thinking Brad, if they do move on from Spencer, it would have to be over the summer, because 99% of the reason to move on from him would be to sign any number of the guys that we have that we need to re-sign over the summer. So I think that if they move on from him, it'll be over the summer, not at the deadline, because we need the cap space now. IDK says, but they've shown no signs of improving from the mistakes. IDK, let's take a breath. I appreciate you come out to every stream and you're a big part of the channel, and I appreciate you. But let's take a time out. Let's just take one second and hear me out for 1 minute. You're not wrong. but it's been 10 games. It's been 10 games. You know what I mean? They don't suddenly suck. 95% of the things that they're doing wrong right now are not the norm for this team. Every team goes through one or two of these slumps during the course of the season. We did it we did it during the West Coast trip when guys were sick, and we're doing it again now when we're not really focused in all that much and everybody else is busting their ass. So it would have been a waste of time to watch the rest of the season if I was going to panic over these 10 games when we know what this team can do, right? Jackson says, I have confidence we'll win at least 5 of the last 9. Yeah. Look, if they finish the season like this, they're going to go into the playoffs and, but I just don't see that happening. Right now, it's just extremely, extremely aggravating, Charles says, get back to 0-0. That's all that matters. Team's very relaxed right now. Oh, so I could chuck at the elbow room during the week, huh? I see. Gotcha. Oh, okay. Jeez, that was crazy. Somebody's making a noise upstairs, and it sounds exactly like Ellie used to sound when she would walk down the stairs. And that's what you just saw was me turning my head because for a half a second I was thinking she was walking down the stairs. Oh, geez. Well, I'm okay. I just caught myself for that split second. I thought, all right. So, Brad said, I saw something about how Maurice is experimenting a bit after April 6th. He's going to roll out the playoff line. So this last 10 games has been a resting, experimenting phase. Not sure. Well, it sounds like what we're seeing, right? It definitely sounds like like what we're seeing for sure. Yeah. Sorry guys, I kind of got off track there. Kyle is doing something upstairs and the bathroom is upstairs right there. And it just yeah. It just I turned my head. I just forgot for a second. Shit. Meadow said Maurice did allude to restoring the lines in the post game. Please just let Nick Cousins, right? Yeah. Yep. Lewis is it good timing for Maurice to experiment? I mean, the idea of having played with everybody else is not a bad idea because you've seen it with the injuries in the playoffs. So in theory, it's not a bad idea. In practice, it's a bit frustrating. That still doesn't excuse Verhaeghe goes into the corner after the guy. Mikkola follows him and leaves his man alone, and Bennett doesn't get back in time. That's not experimenting. That may be a product of the team not being as mentally engaged as they should be because they're experimenting with some things. But there's 9 games left. I think at some point, at least, get the engine running for one period. Give me one period. Give me one full 20-minute period a night. So just, okay, we're going to start the engine. Okay, it's running. All right, it ran for a full period. Okay, we're good. We'll shut it down. Give me one good period, one playoff period per game. Doesn't have to be the whole 60 minutes. Just keep checking the engine and make sure that everything is still working, right? Yeah, Chicken, I saw that today is free quote day, right? Yeah. There you go, Julian, with the last comment here. It says Tarasenko, Matthew, Sasha, Eggplant, Rhino, OEL, Okposo, plenty of leadership to flip this team around. Yep, absolutely. I agree. Chris says, where was Montour in that play? I'm only going by what I can see on the TV. You know what I mean? That's all I can say is he was probably skating back from being in the zone. But if Mikkola just lets Verhaeghe handle the man, even if the man gets the puck out into the front, Mikkola's going to intercept that pass. So, but what do I know? What do I know? All right, everybody, that's an hour. That's going to do it for me here today. I'm going to try to have some content out on the other channels coming up here soon. And we'll be live tomorrow, 1/2 hour before the game and all of that. That's going to be good. And then the review should still be noon on Sunday. We should be good to go there. And as far as the podcast, the members is concerned, next Thursday the podcast will come back. I'll do Thursday, Friday, and then we'll for those of you who are usual normal listeners to the podcast who were with me all summer, the old man's already out there with his damn lawnmower. So that's how I know that it's time for me to get back out there, because he's out there mowing the dirt and the dust again. So, all right, everybody, appreciate all the support, and Kyle and I will see you again tomorrow.